What's up, guys? Today I'm gonna be watching the Attack on Titan finale in Tony's dungeon. This is Tony.
Yeah.
Owen's behind me. You can't really see him. Oh, there he is. Yeah, I don't really have any thoughts going in, so we're gonna hope for a good time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. I finally finished Attack on Titan. I complained a lot while I was watching the show because I didn't really love anime and I was definitely not interested in the learning curve. And this show is definitely different than anything else I've ever seen. But now that I finished the entire thing and I'm looking back, I'm actually genuinely at a loss for words. I'm going to break this down into 3 parts. I'll do some general thoughts on the show itself, I'll do some comparisons to Star Wars and Dune, and then I'll do some quick spoilers at the end. I describe the show best as like a twisted retelling of the Bible through today's eyes. I'll elaborate more on that in later. For those who don't know, I've been on an emotional journey with this show. Like I said before, I don't really watch anime, and I made an exception for the show because a lot of you guys recommended it to me, and I saw a bunch of people comparing Eren to Paul, Anakin and Paul, which made me interested. The first season was alright. It was an interesting world with some nice characters. The second season was okay, but I was starting to lose interest a bit. I thought the pacing was really whack. I was kind of tired of not being told anything about anything, and that was going on. But I persevered. I started watching season 3, which is when things got a little bit more interesting. They started focusing more on some of the side characters like Astoria and Levi, 2 of my favorites, and they gave more context to what happened in this world. And then at the end of season 3, the show goes a complete 180. Without spoiling too much, it goes from like being a medieval monster show to a political drama with tons of religious imagery. There's like a 2-hour video essay and all the biblical parallels in this. I highly recommend it. Season 4 continues this momentum. It's a bit clanky with the pacing at times, but that last stretch in the finale honestly changed something in me. I was genuinely stunned for words. Oni and Tone both saw it. When I finished watching the last episode, I couldn't really speak, and that never happens to me after I finish watching something. Also, shout out to Tony for letting me use her movie theater thing that she has in her house, because I've been watching the show on my laptop the whole time, and I think the movie theater really elevated the experience for me. In my opinion, the show doesn't really work unless you have the full picture. With other TV shows, you can watch maybe the first season or 2 and get a gist of whether you like it or not. But no, not with Attack on Titan. If you're gonna watch the show, you need to commit the entire way through. The show's not even that long. It's like 4 seasons and 20-minute episodes, but it still took me 10 months to finish the show. That's kind of a me thing. But during that time, I never quit. To be fair, the World Cup also definitely set me back a month, but there were times I did wanted to start watching other TV shows, but I looked in the mirror and I said no. I made a commitment to see this the entire way through, and I stuck to it. I had a whole list of Studio Ghibli movies I was going to watch this summer, and I don't think I got to a single one because I knew I had to finish AOT first. But now that I've finished the entire show and I'm looking back the entire thing, my entire giant list of complaints basically disappears. That's really insane to me, honestly, that a show could have an ending that's so good that it literally solves all the problems in the previous seasons. And without spoiling too much, I really love that the ending of the show is completely open-ended. You don't really get a lot of solid answers as to what goes on in this world, but a lot of the character resolutions are really good, and it still leaves like a very good message in the end. I know a lot of people say, oh, it comes full circle in the end about lots of shows, which I always thought was kind of stereotypical, but if there's one show it applies to, it's Attack on Titan. There are numerous scenes in the very first episode that directly set up and connect to what happens in the last episode, literally 10 years apart. That's like insane. So yeah, I could complain about the entire pacing and how the first 2 seasons were pretty average. But honestly, I think that the show doesn't really work like other shows. You can't really judge it by the same rulebook because that's not what it's trying to do. It's a challenging show, but if you have the capacity and the time to get the ending, I swear to God, it's all worth it. There's more I have to say, but I'll get to that in the spoiler section. Now I'm going to finally do what I've been wanting to do since I started the show. We're going to be comparing Anakin Skywalker, Eren Yeager, and Paul Atreides. It's kind of dumb to compare the 3 since they're all great and we can just appreciate them, but I did not sit through this entire show to not get something out of it, so here we go. Darth Vader, born out of a miracle of the Force as a slave on Tatooine, became a Jedi Knight and the Chosen One, but after his mom's death, his apprentice's exile, and the Clone Wars and warnings about his wife's death, turns to the dark side and betrays the Jedi Order, leading to the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire. Emperor Paul Atreides, heir to a royal house, his family is betrayed by the Emperor and he and his mother are left as the only survivors on the desert planet Arrakis. Paul possesses a mind capable of seeing all time and space and uses these abilities to form a religion on Arrakis with himself as a messiah. After enslaving the planet into his cult, he takes the throne and starts a holy war that kills billions upon billions across the galaxy. And now we have Eren Yeager, who is honestly a really well-written character. Witnessed his mother getting eaten by a Titan and has lived alongside the remainder of humanity besides walls. Sick of living in a cage and living in fear, Eren wants to kill every single Titan and experience true freedom for the first time. But as he learns more about the reality of the world and the truth of the Titans, he goes to extreme lengths to assure nobody can take his freedom away, even killing 80% of the humanity in process. There's obviously a ton of similarities here. All 3 are based on the fallen angel from the Bible and have a ton of religious symbolism. All 3 start as the heroes of their stories before falling down a dark path and being left with no other choice to commit genocide and living in regret of their actions. I will say, while he is my personal favorite out of the 3 and is the most iconic, Anakin is kind of weaker from the others in terms of rating. I feel like Paul and Eren are just so well written that it's hard to live up to that. Aaron is also really well written. I've said that 3 times already, and I love seeing the symbolism and themes of his character. People have pointed this out, but a lot of the bird imagery with him is especially striking. I don't know why, but I really like that. His last few conversations in the final episode were very powerful, and the rumbling was really horrific, but you could also still kind of understand what he was trying to go through and why he did everything he did throughout season 4. But to be honest, Aaron and Anakin would have never existed if it wasn't for Paul. I think the themes and motivations around Aaron as a character are different, but beyond that, he does derive a lot from Paul's character, which is fine in my opinion. I think what really makes Paul stand out from the other two isn't just that how he's trapped from his destiny, the enormous guilt he faces, the double meanings behind a lot of his dialogue and his actions, but what he represents. Paul Atreides is supposed to act as a warning to the audience about leaders. Paul is a charismatic political leader who uses the fabricated lies about religion and presents himself as a messiah to create a false narrative, put himself into power and start a galactic genocide. This is a warning about not trusting politicians and leaders who use religion and misinformation to further their own desires and wars. We've all seen this in real life, right? That's the genius behind Paul's character and his presentation throughout the movies and the book. The viewer is almost tricked into believing he is the hero of the story until you step back and realize what's actually happening, and by that point it's too late. Just like the Fremen, you yourself are engulfed into Paul's rise to power without realizing the consequences. The only main character who truly understands the weight of what's happening is Paul himself, and Chani too in the movies, and he hates that this is the path he is forced to take. So anyways, here are my rankings of the 3, blah, 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 blah. Okay, now here are my last few thoughts on the finale, major spoilers from here. I realize how long this video was, and if I keep going, it's going to get even longer, so I'm just going to rapid fire these. The fact that Aaron in the first episode is dreaming all the events of the series that connects directly to the finale is actually insane. I think in the manga, he even mentions that Mikasa's hair is, like, long. That's, like, I don't even know what to say. Hanji's death scene was really nice. I think that's might be one of my favorite scenes in the show. It didn't feel too fan servicey, and it felt right and satisfying. Also, every single like monologue that Erwin has, especially his like last suicide monologue, is really, really good. On Your Feet Dad was cool. I think that's a good twist. But I think the main thing that really shocked me was when Aaron like admitted to causing his own mother's death. And the entire last conversation between Aaron and Armin was really, really well done. I love that. So yeah, that's basically everything that's not everything I have to say, I'm lying, but that's everything I want to put in this video. If you see me in person, we'll talk more about it, because this video is going to get way too long. I was going to give this a 9 out of 10 because of the problems I had earlier, but I can't even lie. It's a solid 10 out of 10. I would say definitely watch it. You have to watch it the entire way through. You can't judge it like 1 to 2 seasons through, but this is one of the best pieces of media I've ever seen. Okay, bye.